Have you ever wondered why a simple "how are you" isn't always a real question? Or why in some places people run for a bus while in others they just stick out an arm? Well, the answer to all of that is culture. It's this invisible script that guides our every move. So in this explainer, we're going to decode this powerful force and see how it shapes, well, pretty much everything we do.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll dive into the unwritten rules that make up culture. Then, we'll talk about the danger of looking at the world only through our own lens. From there, we'll unpack 3 really powerful concepts for building real understanding, see how to put it all into practice, and then we'll wrap up with a key takeaway you can start using right away.
All right, first up, let's talk about those invisible scripts. You know, culture isn't just something you find in a museum or a history book. Nope, it's happening all around us, in every single interaction we have, every single day.
And to see what I mean, just think about this for a second. What are the actual rules for saying hello? I mean, when you pass an acquaintance on the street and ask how they're doing, what's really going on there?
That question, "Hi, how are you?" it seems so simple, right? But in a lot of Western cultures, especially in the US, it's not really a question. It's a ritual. It's just a way of saying, "Hey, I see you, I acknowledge you." If you actually stopped and launched into a 10-minute story about your terrible morning, you'd be breaking a major unwritten rule. That, right there, is culture in action.
So, in sociological terms, this is what culture really is. It's not something we're born with. It's a system of shared beliefs, values, and all these practices that we literally have to learn to be part of our society. It's kind of like the instruction manual we're all handed, but nobody ever actually reads it out loud.
Just think about how this shapes our most basic behaviors. In Paris, it might be totally normal to shop for food every day at little outdoor markets. In the US, it's more often a massive weekly trip to a supermarket. Now, neither one is better, they're just different cultural scripts for getting food. And the same goes for huge things like how we approach marriage, or even tiny things like how we catch a bus.
Okay, so to understand this on a deeper level, it helps to break culture down into 2 parts. You've got the stuff you can physically see and touch, and then you've got the invisible ideas and beliefs that give all that stuff its meaning. So let's see how this works in the real world. A bus token. That's material culture. It's a physical thing. But it represents non-material culture. You know, the idea of capitalism, this social agreement that we pay for services. A school building is material, but the educational standards taught inside, that's all non-material. You see? The two are always linked.
But here's the catch. Being so deep inside our own culture makes it really hard to see other cultures clearly. We're all looking at the world through a specific lens, and honestly, that lens can be pretty dangerous. And the biggest danger has a name. It's called ethnocentrism. This is what happens when we use our own culture as the default yardstick to measure everybody else. And it almost always comes with this unspoken belief that our way is the right way, or the normal way.
So, basically, we have a few different ways of reacting to cultural differences. On one end, you've got ethnocentrism. That's like saying people in England drive on the wrong side of the road instead of just, the other side. On the total opposite end, there's xenocentrism, the belief that another culture is way better than your own. The sweet spot, the place we really want to aim for, is in the middle, cultural relativism. And that just means trying to understand a culture by its own standards, not by yours. So how do we actually do that? How do we practice that kind of understanding? Well, sociologists and educators have come up with some incredibly powerful concepts that can act as tools to help us get past our own biases and build genuine equity. The first tool is called cultural humility. And I want you to notice that word practice, because this is not a finish line you cross. It's a constant, lifelong commitment to looking inward, to learning, and to challenging your own assumptions about other people. It's all about being able to say, you know what? I don't know everything, and I am willing to learn. Let's see what that looks like in action. So, Mr. Smith has a new student, Amina. Instead of just assuming he knows what's best for her, he starts with himself. He recognizes he has his own lens, his own biases. So he actively seeks to learn, not just from books, but from the real experts, local organizations, and Amina's own family. And here's the most important part. He uses that new knowledge to change his own teaching, bringing Amina's culture into the classroom for everyone's benefit. Now that is cultural humility.
Okay, our second tool is understanding something called cultural capital. Think of this as all the non-financial stuff that can help you get ahead in life. Things like your level of education, your style of speech, even the way you dress. They're like assets, a kind of social currency that helps you succeed. But the key is that not everyone's currency is valued equally by the dominant culture.
This is such a powerful example. Look at what Miss Garcia does here. Instead of seeing Sam's family through a lens of what they lack, she looks for their cultural capital. She sees their incredible resilience and their resourcefulness as huge strengths. She finds out that Sam's mom is basically an expert on local community resources, and she treats that knowledge as valuable, inviting her to share it.
And that leads us perfectly into our third big concept, funds of knowledge. This is the simple but profound idea that every single person brings a huge wealth of knowledge with them from their home life, their community, and their own unique experiences. And the crucial part is seeing that knowledge as a valuable resource for learning, not something to be ignored or replaced.
So in this case, Mix Taylor sees a student's personal interests and identity not as a challenge, but as a fund of knowledge. By tapping into Alex's passion for storytelling, they create a project that actually benefits the entire class and broadens everyone's perspective. They're actively bringing Alex's world into the classroom, and that makes learning more relevant and inclusive for everybody.
Okay, so we've got these three powerful concepts: cultural humility, cultural capital, and funds of knowledge. So, what do we do with them? How do they all come together? Well, they form a practical framework that we call a strengths-based approach.
And this is the blueprint. It starts by totally flipping the script. Don't start by looking for problems. Start by looking for strengths. From there, you move from just respecting differences to actively learning from them and being willing to change what you do. Finally, it's about sharing power and approaching families not as clients, but as true, equal partners in the whole process.
And at the absolute heart of this entire approach is this powerful belief. It's the recognition that families have a unique expertise that no professional, no matter how skilled, can ever replace. They are the primary educators, and our role is to support them in that. All right, so after all of this, what's the big cultural takeaway? What's the one thing you can put into action in your own life starting today?
This is it. This is the single most important shift you can make. Stop seeing difference as a deficit, a problem, or something that needs to be fixed. Instead, start seeing it for what it is: a strength, an asset, a fund of knowledge, a form of capital. It is a resource that can enrich every single one of us.
And that leaves us with one final question. It's easy to talk about these ideas, but the real work happens in our daily interactions. So think about your week ahead. I work, in your community, maybe with your own family. Whose strengths, whose expertise, whose unique cultural capital will you make a conscious effort to recognize and value?